Secret friends, unite!
Welcome to the Secret Friends Unite podcast. This is your guide to the geek side, and I'm your host, Todd Oxtra. Along for the journey is my companion in time, Charlie Carden.
We're on a sentimental journey. Oh, yeah. What's up, y'all?
Now, one of the podcasts I listen to, every episode, the host introduces hosts, and he always comes up with something new, and every time, that's really hard. We have hard enough time coming up with, like, the Madam Webb, good joke, but it's hard being witty. Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's hard for you.
Oh, my. You do it every time. I'll let you do it every time then, Charlie.
No, that's too much pressure. I don't like
it. The heat is on, my friend, just like that classic SNL skit.
The heat is on.
Yes, and the heat is on across the United States as it's all burning, and unfortunately, we do not have, like, the goddess of weather, like Storm, or anyone to come in and put these flames out, so...
It's burning and it's sharing. I was staying at a friend's house earlier this week and walked out to get my car to drive away, and she's leaving at the same time and said, "Somebody's smoking out here." I'm like, "No, it's the damn wildfires. 2,500 miles away, we're getting all the stench."
Fire Lord, why are you so mean to us? Put out your flame and go away.
You're right, exactly. Yeah, go to Smokers Anonymous. Is that a thing? Did I make that up? I don't know.
It probably is, yeah.
Could be.
Oh, well. But you know what? When we're not talking about Fire Lord and the mistakes he's made over time, we're talking about how you can show your love to Secret Friends Unite by subscribing on YouTube, and then basically comment or let us know what you want us to talk about on future shows on YouTube, because now we're adding more and more there every week, soon to be Code 47. And the whole family will be on video. It'll be great. And then if you're in iTunes, go ahead and give us a 5-star review in iTunes. If you do, we'll read it on the show. And the cool part is you don't even need to have an iPhone or a Mac to do that. You can just do it on your PC and leave a review there as well. So, Excellent. And then if you want to talk more geeky stuff with us in real time, you can always come to the SFU Discord group. So, Charlie, you know what the Discord group could be talking about today? It is this beautiful, wonderful cover of PEP number 335.
PEP just makes me feel like, Now, 35-cent cover price is going to say, now, does it I think it has the date in the
it just has the March. It just has March as the month, but yes.
But as my magnificence, I know that 35 cents was early late 70s.
Yes.
So that's what's up. But yeah, you got Archie in a cloud of, I'm assuming, marijuana smoke because it's the 70s. This disco reminds me of algebra class. I'm always in a fog there too. No, Archie, that is the stickiest of the icky. That is the marijuana. And look at Jughead in the back. He's wearing essentially what looks like John Travolta's outfit, but he has no hat. So somebody claimed his hat. Hatless.
That's like his object of power, I know. It's like seeing Loki without the helmet.
Look at the one kid in the foreground on the right is wearing like what basically looks like the sportscaster's outfit with the tartan pants and the blue blazer and the vest, the big tie, just so 70s, very 70s.
Yeah. So Pep, I don't know what Pep was for Archie's comics, but I mean, obviously we had Archie, Betty and Veronica. Everybody had their own comic, and they lasted forever. I think they're still going on. I remember those Archie digests, where they were like 5 inches, tall and really thick, and you buy them at like the grocery store. And
always at the grocery store.
$1.25. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, I remember those in the little grocery store in the town where my aunt lives, and I go spend summers there. And it was like they had a spinner rack back in the day, and I remember one of the comics I picked up. It was the summer they did Craven's Last Hunt. So summer of 1987. But that was always the other, like the Archie's Digest, and the stories are always the same.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, they're always the same.
Collection.
And, I mean, yeah. What other stories are there to tell? He's horny and he's in Riverdale and going to get burgers and fries and get to maybe second base. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and he was the only guy that got away with liking 2 chicks, and they never killed him over it. It was just very weird.
I mean, everybody's got their kink, man. It's okay.
It is weird, though, because a lot of, pop culture, comics and things like that, they were always multiple years behind, the trend. So, This might be like 78, Charlie, like 1978,
I would
and they're
think so.
finally talking about disco. So it's like disco
Right.
kind of like happened in like the 74, 75. So
No,
I think
no,
this
no,
one
no,
kicked
no,
off.
no, no,
Was it
no,
earlier?
no. Disco was Saturday Night Fever came out in '78, so disco lived and died in the late '70s to like basically 1980, if I was to hazard a guess.
Well,
Yeah,
I think it actually is earlier. We just got Saturday Night Fever. Basically, they said, if I look at Wikipedia, they said it
yes,
actually
wiki it up.
started in the late 60s, early 70s, and continued and
Oh,
became
okay,
it became popular later. Like there was
right.
Disco
And
Mickey
what's
Mouse and things like
And when,
that.
yeah, and when something becomes popular and it goes into the zeitgeist, then even in our memory, when that's when we were born, we tend to think about it. Well, that's when it was popular, because that's when you saw Saturday Night Fever, you're like, oh, this is what everybody's talking about. The Bee Gees had a career renaissance because of that. But at any rate, we're droning on. This is not
About disco and Archie. Come on, this is
Yeah,
what everybody wants to hear when they listen to the podcast.
everything's Archie. You got it.
Or the Archie's band. Yeah.
Right.
So, we talked about a lot of things, but now we actually talk about things that people actually care about. And to do that, we
Maybe.
turn to our gal pal, our senior news correspondent. Without further delay, Madam Webb, take it away.
Now it's time for Madam Webb's rumors and news. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Madam Webb. We're sitting here. Oh God, I was thinking.
Well, hold on. Since we're pausing, I'm still getting some kind of static off of you. It's something sounds different. Like even your voice isn't quite as concise. And maybe it's my imagination, and maybe the levelator fixes that.
Give me 1 second,
Yeah, I'm
and
just
I
getting
will.
I'm just getting a weird wave off of you, and I just don't want to find out
Okay.
after we do all this that it's something screwed up. So anyway,
Well, let me open up Audacity and record with it, and I'll hear it on my own. Let's turn this over here. So
see something, say something.
Yeah, let me try it. You can mute me, or I guess I can mute myself.
No, you're good.
Okay, so I'm gonna do a voice check. So here we go. Checking my mic. One more time. Checking my mic. This is Todd. Okay, I'm going to listen to it now. So.
To my surprise.
Didn't really sound that different. Let me try.
I mean, you're hearing me, Nora. You don't think it's me? I mean, you don't think I don't sound different?
I do hear something in your background. Like I don't know if I'm hearing myself.
I mean, right
and
now
I just heard a cat,
and you just heard my baby girl. We got them these collars at April Fun. They're actually calming collars. You might want to check this out. They emit some kind of catnipish kind of coolingness.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think she's pissed on anything since she's had it. So it must be a miracle.
Oh, well, we definitely do not have pissing issues. We have
it's just with her, and I started cleaning the litter box more often, like instead of because it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. It's like with you, yours isn't yours in the basement, and it's back in the laundry area or something or whatever. It's like out of sight, out of mind, right? Like you don't. Let's get this. Okay, you just hit record. All right, let's go. And we're coming back into
with Madam Webb.
Okay, gotcha. All right, let's do it, and make sure you make a note on the flow doc that you switch to a different recording. Not that you'd forget.
Yep. Well, I will know when it's not there. That's easy.
What the fuck? All right, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Thank you, Madam Webb. Oh, Madam Webb, I tell you, I know you're heartbroken that Comic-Con was not in person this year, but I did check out your panel for a little bit. It was looking for love in all the old places. And that is not a pun to be entitled. And unfortunately, I don't think you still understand that it's not really an OnlyFans option. And I just don't think that's going to work for you.
Would some of those old places be the Chestnut Tree and the Wishing Well? I'll be seeing you. Okay, very good. Well, what's going on in the news this week? We got a little bit of, like you said, the virtual con is conning. So what do we got?
Yes, so lots of little news pieces are coming out. Comic-Con happened. It still actually happened this weekend. I checked out a couple of the panels. It's all there if you guys want to check it on YouTube. Really cool. Something for everybody. Actually had some real companies show up, did some real panels with some real reveals of entertainment, which is very cool. So out of that, we got the Dune trailer that Dune is going to be coming out in October. This is also going to be on HBO Max and in theaters. And this one looks to be, Dune has been redone multiple times. We had the book, obviously,
Right.
a classic by Frank Herbert. Then we've got the '80s movie by David Lynch with Kyle MacLachlan and Sting. A lot of people didn't love that because they felt like it really didn't capture the heart of Dune. Then Sci-Fi did a couple of like miniseries and things like that, which I enjoyed. But obviously, it's still sci-fi on a sci-fi budget.
Right.
Then this one's finally coming out. This is by, and you'll love this, Carly, because you were such a huge fan of it. This is by the director of the latest Blade Runner, Denis Villeneuve.
That movie was a great late Friday night nap. What was that movie, like 3 hours long? And going to see it at 8:00 on a Friday after work it's a bad formula for me personally and I just It didn't rev my engine. But you know what? I know there's a lot of people who are totally nuts. I mean, the first Blade Runner wasn't a big jam for me, and I would agree with you that I'm not some diehard, what do they call them, Duners, Dune head. But this trailer looks magnificent.
Yes.
I'm totally on board with this. This is great.
Yeah.
Chalamet. He's kind of the male ingenue in Hollywood. He's a big deal for stuff that he's been in. But to look at the rest of the cast, I mean, they took every like genre cast they could, and well, really all MCU, because now you have Oscar Isaac, who is going to be Moon Knight, but you have Josh Brolin, Thanos, you have Batista, who's Drax, and did I see other Marvel faces in here? This just
Zendaya, MJ.
Yeah, Zendaya.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Oh, yeah, of course. So yeah, everybody who's not Chalamet is basically an MCU character in this, which, so, you get a lot of warm fuzzies out of that, just out the gate, seeing, people that you enjoy their performances and stuff. And this was a long trailer, 3.5 minutes. Usually trailers are like 2:30 flat, but there's just obviously a lot of story going on here, or a lot of things that they wanted to tease us with. So is this supposed to be a super duper long movie? I mean, what's the
I would guess it is, because I believe most times they've tried to do Dune, they do it. It's long because it is a long story. It's built.
Yeah.
You talk about world building, Charlie. This thing requires a lot of world building. The books themselves are like 700 pages each. So it becomes a scenario where you do have this very rich, instance where you do kind of have to inform people what's going on, why it matters, because it's not just a jump in and Luke has to save the Empire. It's basically there's issues going on with warring factions. We've got these houses that basically control the universe, and the biggest thing that they are trying to control is the supply of this thing called the spice. Spice is life. It's basically it's what fuels the world and allows the world to run. And this all is coming down to the fact that you've got Paul Atreides. He's the young man who will take over the throne. Starts seeing visions of a world called Arrakis, where
Right.
these sandworms live. And he meets this girl, Zendaya. So this one feels a lot of like very Shakespearean, and like the houses, and freedom fighters and all these things that are coming together. And this man who apparently is destined to greatness to not only lead House Atreides, but also save Arrakis from House Harkonnen, which, we've got. We saw that the evil folks, like Dave Bautista is one of them. We've got Javier Bardem. Basically, he's going to be the leader of the Fremen, which are the free people of Arrakis. So it's going to be very epic, and that's what Dune has always been. Dune has always been also very artistic and artsy fartsy, as you would say, Charlie. So that's why a lot of people are excited about Denis Villeneuve, because he does
Villeneuve.
I'm going to make his name up every time I say it.
Why not?
But he's very artistic, and he takes a different approach. And some people would say it's kind of slow, and it definitely is. But he wants to add some artistic flair to what he's doing versus just making it a over-the-top MCU show. So I totally get that.
So what you're trying to tell me is that this will be like a 17-hour movie. Great, really looking forward to it. I mean, I hope for not a repeat experience with what we got with at least my personal vibe of Blade Runner 2077 or whatever the hell it was. But yeah, I like this, and I'm fired up. So you said this is October, and then it's also going to be on HBO Max. So you don't necessarily have to go to the theater, but this is definitely a theater kind of film, I think.
Oh yeah, big screen. I don't know if this is an IMAX or not, but we're going to start seeing more of those movies with a bigger screen effect. October 22nd. See it on HBO Max or in the theater. Hopefully this is good.
I am all for it. We're moving right along. I watched this live. I was very excited. But Star Trek I was going to call it Progeny. Star Trek Prodigy, Prodigy, is an animated program that's going to be airing on Nickelodeon / Paramount Plus. So I already had somebody ask me, where the hell am I going to watch it? I don't have Nickelodeon. Paramount Plus. Paramount Plus is the home for 100% of Star Trek, except for one of the JJ movies. So it doesn't count. But all of your televised Star Trek is found on Paramount Plus. So we went all the way through this panel. It did not get a release date, which did not please me. But this panel and the subsequent Lower Decks panel, which we're not going to talk too much about, was hosted by a very giddy Jerry O'Connell, who managed to, get tongue twisted and tied up, and it was fun. It was kind of what's great about, live TV, as it were. But no, this is a fun program geared towards kids. Has to do with a group of aliens in a disparate part of the galaxy that stumble upon a Starfleet vessel, and they're going to kind of take it as their own. It's going to be their salvation. But Starfleet has preloaded a emergency training hologram, which just happens to be Kate Mulgrew as Catherine Janeway as a hologram. So I already know that Todd loves
it. It's as cool as a 2-pack hologram.
Yeah, we all know how much Todd loves Voyager. So we can already tell that he's teed up. But no, seriously, this show looks to have a pretty exciting cast. Of the notables, Jason Mantzoukas is a character in it. Veteran, when April and I were watching it, she was going through Dee Bradley Baker, who is the voice of every clone on every Clone Wars production in Star Wars. Big deal. You have the daughter of the Taco Bell dog guy, Carlos Alizaki, who was also on Reno 911. That's the one young lady in this. And some other people that kind of sort of look familiar, but will become obviously more known to me as this goes on. Again, this is geared for kids. It's set to release in fall 2021. So over on Code 47, what we're going to do, if I can give a plug for my own program, starting the week that we get Lower Decks, so the week of August 12, we are going to shift back to our format of talking about a single episode a week, and then news and outro and stuff, just so that we can really hyper-focus on new material. When this show comes out, we're going to handle both programs at the same time, and then subsequently, as we get into Discovery, potentially Picard, and then potentially Strange New Worlds when we get into 2022. So it's a good time for Star Trek. There's never been a time in franchise history when there's been this much buzz. The seasons might be shorter, but there's more of them, so you're getting more variety, you're getting better stories, and it's a great time. It's good stuff.
Yeah, especially if you're a Star Trek content creator, because ultimately you don't just have one thing and then you have to re-talk about it, in Star Trek, especially, Charlie.
Right.
Talking about the same things that have been out for years. And it's like, after a while, it's like, is there really much new to talk about those old things versus something new that can really bring light to other parts of the Star Trek world? And I think that's important.
I mean, you're absolutely right. There are podcasts that I listen to that they're on episode 400 or 500, and they're like, we're coming around and we use the random generator to pick this episode. And believe it or not, 5 years ago, we talked about the same episode. And you're right. I don't want Code 47 to get into that format. And that's something that Rich and Aaron and I have talking about, is how to keep our format spicy. So it's like we've been doing half seasons at a time, but we're going to discontinue that of older shows. So when we come back, we may split that up. We may stretch that out so we can talk more. And I don't, there's always possibilities, but as a content creator, our focus is going to be on this new material. And
Absolutely.
the way that it looks, we could have almost a solid year of new stuff where we don't have to go back to the well for that old material. And that's very exciting in my opinion. So anyway, this is fun. And then again, there was a panel after this about Lower Decks, which of course is entering season 2. They had a lot of fun gags, including the Tom Paris commemorative plate, which Mike McMahon, who creates the show, says, I loved those commemorative Star Trek: The Next Generation plates from the 90s, so we made our own. So there is going to be the day before Lower Decks comes out, so on August 11th, you will be able to pre-order a commemorative plate with the animated Tom Paris on it that you see in the episode. So it's a chuckle. It's going to be fun.
The Franklin Mint, man, oh man, gotta love them for all of their class, like the cuckoo clocks. Here's the Star Trek Next Generation cuckoo clock, just what you wanted. Yeah, I'm really excited because this potentially is the best way Star Trek will make new fans from the very beginning, because this is right in the wheelhouse. It's a really nice CG animated show. It's not like the Rick and Morty style with their other animated show. So definitely feeling different versus like Star Wars right now. Every Star Wars show kind of starts look animated one kind of looks the same, that same style. So I like it. You got that artistic difference. I like that Janeway is coming back. She's a touch of the old in a different way. And then you've got this group of basically, is there even a human amongst them at all? It's almost all aliens, right?
No, again, yeah, because it's supposed to be, I believe, set in the Delta Quadrant, which is, of course, where Voyager took place. And, us hardcores are going to be interested to find out how that ties in. One of the characters, and I know Richie and I have been very excited about this over on Code 47, is actually a callback to Peter David's New Frontier series, novel series from the late 1990s of a race, Brickar, which called Brickar. They're basically brick rock people that have not been canon until now, because those, nothing that's not on screen with Star Trek is considered canon. So that's very cool. So we're pretty fired up about that.
Very, very cool. Yeah, it's really great to see Star Trek really be ambitious, trying new things, and there may be some stinkers along the way, but that's okay because
got to break a few eggs.
Absolutely, take chances and then bring in more people along the way. So very, very cool, Star Trek. And I will check this one out as well, just like I checked out almost every new Star Trek show.
Rockin' with Dockin'. All right, what's up next? This one's you, because it's not really my flavor, but go for it.
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, this is what's kind of cool about we've talked about this in the past, Charlie. How do you keep things alive if your show no longer exists or your movie series no longer exists? And basically, you go to other media. You make comics. You do. Maybe you made a movie, you make a TV show out of it, and vice versa. You make a cartoon. Well. Or video games in this case. But in this instance, we're getting The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina will live on. That show finally wrapped up, but the creator of the show wanted it to continue kind of like a season 6, but in comic book form. Buffy did this, and other properties have done this, where they've continued on the property in another media, and that's what The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is doing. But basically, it's based off the Netflix series versus the other Sabrina stuff that's been going on with Archie comics. So this is very cool. So it's very great that you've got the creator involved, which he had basically created this concept with the Archies before this even came out. So he's kind of going full circle. And the new comic will be called The Occult World of Sabrina, and it'll be scripted by, he'll be scripting it, and he's got art by Audrey Mock, and it's just going to continue the adventure of the team and these heroes' storylines. They did 36 episodes across 2 seasons. I think they did 3. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is wrong. But I thought they did 3 seasons, 12 episodes each. And I was really happy with the series.
Yeah, I know April loved it, and this would be another failed attempt for me to get her to read a comic, because I tried to get her to do that with Orphan Black, which was another show she liked that spun off into comics. So I give up. I'll certainly let her know about it, because I know she really enjoyed the program. But regardless, that's cool. Yeah, you're right. It's good to see that. I know that has kept Firefly alive. That kept Star Trek alive. Certainly in
Farscape has done multiple. The Babylon 5 did multiple. Yeah, so it's a great way to further the fan base and give them something new to look forward to.
Right, exactly correct. So, well, good deal. All right, well, Warner Brothers is 1-2 punch here. You promised me one story and gave me 2, so you go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm going to kind of layer it on, Charlie. This is like 2 courses of the same meal.
Layers.
Well, meals don't have layers unless you're making like 7-layer dip.
Dip.
So the first course in your meal today is the fact that Warner Brothers has announced that they are going to pivot from their plan to do direct to HBO Max movies. Basically, they'll go out in the theaters first. They'll come to HBO Max eventually. But what they're doing is they're going to make movies exclusively for HBO Max, though. These
Oh,
don't
so
even go to the theater.
they're going the Netflix route because that's how Netflix is planning and building that library where still, no matter how many times you explain to me, I'm like, how are they making money? How are they making money? Obviously, it's all endorsements of somehow, or it's all some kind of product placement or whatever. So make that money.
So they're going to shift to like Paramount Plus with a 45-day window.
Gotcha. That's not bad.
No, it's smart too. You've seen like the Quiet Place 2 did that,
right?
And that movie did great because people didn't have. If you wanted to see that movie, most people don't wait 45 days unless it's Snake Eyes. But we'll talk more about that in a second. But the cool part is with the 45-day window, which is great, they are going to have some movies that are exclusive to the service, like I mentioned. And one of those movies, Charlie, which I mentioned, is going to be Batgirl.
Nice. Wow. Straight to HBO. I dig it.
Yeah, and they have cast the new Batgirl, and I'm blanking on who it was. I don't have it up in the story, but that is something they're going to do. So this kind of serves both audiences, kind of like the DC animated movies do as well. So it's it's another thing along with their TV series they're got, like Titans now is right on HBO Max. So they're doing movies, TV series, animated stuff with DC, which means which is very similar. Well, it's similar what Disney Plus is doing, but I don't know if Disney Plus will ever do any MCU movies direct to Disney Plus.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so because it's such a tent pole, or it has been in the past. I mean, there's certainly ankling a little bit with Black Widow. But as we talked about last week, the Black Widow thing it's such a catch-22 because they set it up trying to get both sides of the audience, but a lot of people are still looking at those box office returns and and thinking about it in the old way. So it's not what it was. And I know that I saw a tweet a little while ago that said it plunged even further. So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I would think that would be unlikely. But it seems to be working out for Warner Brothers because they're getting those crazy record numbers on HBO Max, and it's an ongoing deal. You want to stay subscribed because you don't want to miss out. Or if you leave, you're going to come
every
back.
month.
Yeah, exactly. So
absolutely.
A reason to let your subscription renew, and if they keep the price reasonable, they're going to get more people out of it. So.
Yeah, and to tie that into another story that's part of this, Charlie, is the fact that Michael B. Jordan is partnering with HBO Max to create one of those direct to HBO Max movies, and this one will be centered on a black Superman. And you were thinking, oh, but I thought they were making a J.J. Abrams was developing a Superman film with Nessie Coates. This is different. So this is an interesting bit. I like this. The fact that basically this editorial written by Jamie Broadnax of Black Girl Nerds basically got information from Jordan, who said he does not want to engage in conversations about race bending, Kal-El, for the same reasons many of the fans are pushing back on the current Warner Brothers reimagined version of Clark Kent. He's more interested in developing the character that is called Val Zod, which is a black Superman made for the comics.
Absolutely. And it's so ridiculous. There really is not a compelling reason to change a character because it's a knee-jerk reaction. This will be a buzz or this and that. Why not simply create a character in this case, or a character that's been existing? And again, I'm no Superman aficionado, though I do play one in cosplay sometime. Kingdom Come, and always working on my abs and sucking it in so I can do Superman. But yeah, give us a new character that actually fits the bill. You don't have to dump something like Clark Kent in order to have a Superman, because again, Superman is an alien from a planet of aliens that are normal when they live there, and when they're in the light of Earth's yellow sun, they have superpowers. So yes, he's the last son of Krypton, but there always seem to be a few more here and there. Particularly if you're watching, particularly if you're watching the Superman and Lois right now, which April and I are a big fan of over on the CW. I think it's over now. I think. It might be.
It had a break.
Close.
It was coming back.
It had a break. It was on a break, and it did come back, and we watched several. And they the last one we saw kind of seemed to be a season ender, but I'd have to check. Okay. I think it might be. But anyway, this is 1,000% the right, in my opinion, the right way to go. Create a new character or adapt a new character instead of, for absolutely no good reason, saying, "Well, now Clark Kent is black." Well, why? Where's the story advantage?
And I believe he is from a different Earth. He is from Earth a 19.
Well, there
Earth
you
2,
go.
or maybe
Exactly.
Earth 2. Yeah,
And
he's from a different Earth. Yeah.
yeah, and that's the beauty of the multiverse storytelling, is that you can do that kind of stuff to beat the band. And we all know that that's the direction Marvel's going in. And I heard some even more things about what did I hear a bit? I was listening to the Weekly Planet. They said something about there's buzz right now that Haley Atwell will adapt the Captain Britain, Peggy Carter, Captain America, What If character into the Doctor Strange film. I mean, I don't know if that's a confirmed buzz, but that's awesome. But,
Yep.
simply because I love Haley Atwell so much, I want to see her do absolutely anything. I want to see her read the phone book. I don't care. But that's what a great way to cross pollinate and turn things over. But anyway.
Yeah, this reminds me of how you can have Miles Morales and Peter Parker coexist. So you're not basically upsetting one fan base to satisfy another. You can have each character be unique, have their own background, which makes them their take on the mantle interesting and fun. So I like this idea, and I hope it works. Michael B. Jordan, obviously it's very tough to cast him in another Marvel piece, especially after he was, essentially killed off as Killmonger.
Right.
So he can take his...
To clarify about Superman and Lois, 2 episodes left, but they take another break because we watched an episode July 20, and then it comes back on August 10, and then again on
after
August
the
17.
Olympics.
And then it's over. Yes, the Olympics. Yippee.
Yeah.
Like I care about the Olympics. Whatever. Okay.
Yes. So, so look forward to that. And HBO Max, once again, doing their own thing, taking some risks. This allows them to take some risks and try new things on a lower scale. Doesn't mean it's not as important to being on the big screen. And quite honestly, this maybe get this character to the screen faster than if it was a movie and getting bogged down. And still, you can make a Clark Kent character and still do this. So very, very cool. But lastly, we did, out of Comic-Con, we did get a trailer for season 13, or series 13, I guess you would say.
Series 13.
Okay, yes. Even though it's funny because we always think of series being like, something different, but oh well. Series 13 of Doctor Who. A lot of this came up in the group, and it was interesting because people are saying like something just seems to be off, and nobody can really pinpoint it. And it's not necessarily that it's a female doctor, but just something seems off. Like there's no buzz about the show. And I'm not sure because they took time off. They've gone away from the Christmas episode. They obviously have, this is a new showrunner and the new doctor introduced at the same time. So maybe has a different feel. So the best way they can do to make a show feel alive again is change up the formula. And they've kind of been the same formula with Doctor, at least, new doctor comes in, new companion, and it's worked. Some people didn't like Peter Capaldi. I thought he was good, but he took a while to really warm up to, because he was kind of the grumpy old man. And a lot of people didn't love him, especially coming after Matt Smith. But, in this case with Jodie, I don't want to say Jodie Foster, Jodie Whittaker, she was introduced, and not only was she introduced with the new showrunner, but she was also introduced with essentially 3 companions at the same time. So I never felt like she and a companion were allowed really to grow as characters, because there were so many storylines and people sharing the screen and the dialogue and the real estate. So in this instance, though, we found out during the New Year Days Revolution of the Dialogue special, basically 2 of those companions went away. So now we're left with essentially 1 companion with the doctor, and that is Mandip Gill, who goes by Yaz, is still traveling with her. So I think this is a good thing, because it means we get more time with 2 characters where we really get to see them develop a relationship. And that's a big part with the doctor and the companions, is that relationship they form. And this is going to be a good thing. So, there are going to be some guests coming in this season, but they also said that instead of doing more episodic stuff, they're going to have more of a story arc for the whole season, which a lot of people really love too. And maybe the monster of the week isn't always the best way to tell a story in modern storytelling. So they're doing these things, which hopefully a lot of people will come around to. And above all, I hope the writing is good, because sometimes so far the writing has been a little bit
Yeah, like I said, we've not tuned back in a very long time, so there's not one that I have a dog in the fight. So I will certainly have interest if people come back and tell me, hey, you know what, they changed this thing, they changed that thing, and it finally got things on track. Let's hope. That would be great.
Absolutely. So this, don't think we have a date for this, but she's been gone a long time. I think the last season came out in 2019. We got that special in 2020. So definitely getting Doctor Who back in the face of everybody. The other part is Doctor Who is hard to find right now. It used to be on Sci-Fi and BBC America. I believe now HBO Max gets it with BBC America. So that potentially is a smaller audience, right? Because not everybody has HBO Max, but maybe if HBO Max can really get behind it and say the Doctor is back only on HBO Max, that could be a big deal too.
Faux show. Well, that does it for the news. So let's bing up an Uber. Let's dig out our nickels to toss in the tip jar up at the bar over at the Geek Easy. Let's go right now.
Talk nerdy to me. Talk nerdy to me.
We're sitting in the Geek Easy. The cover band's playing. Drinks are poured. Well, I'm having coffee, unless it's Irish coffee that my wife snuck in there. But we shall see. Really quickly, I just want to touch back on Fear Street 1666. Charlie, you talked about it last week, but I hadn't watched it really. So I really couldn't speak more about it because I didn't watch it yet. So spoilers, guy, for the Fear Street trilogy that we now just completed. Man, I really enjoyed this series or trilogy, whatever we're gonna call it.
Ditto.
And I liked what they did with 1666 because it started in 1666, but essentially an hour into the movie, that era ended, and then we were brought back to Fear Street 1994 Part 2. And I liked how they kind of changed up the format for that. So I liked their assaults. And different monsters that essentially showed up and how they kind of solved the mystery. It was kind of very much like a Scooby-Doo type of tale at the end. And I really enjoyed it. This movie had no problem killing people, or the series did, that you thought were going to make it and they didn't. And I really liked that.
Right. Yeah. It wasn't the super obvious, like, oh, they ain't got no chance. And they just, it was going to go down like that. But yeah, if you have, the one character walks around the corner and he's like, and as, a hatchet gets plunged into his skull. Or the poor girl who's like, she's struggling with the killer and, she's going to get off at the last minute. No, her head's going right into that meat slicer. It was just like, wow, you did not really see that coming. Tough stuff.
They weren't afraid to kill their darlings. I will say it was funny because they introduced the one, I guess he would be the custodian, the black guy. I'm like, and he didn't die. So people can say that, they saved most of the characters of color.
They saved the black folk. That is crazy. Good stuff.
Yeah, and I will say the most annoying character in the movie had to be like the co-star, I guess you would call her, the blonde chick. I'm like, you are so dumb and you caused so many problems and so many people died because of you, but oh well. It was just weird. I don't know. I really didn't care for her. I thought she was kind of boring, but oh well. But I did like the fact that there was a, did you stay for the end credits, Charlie?
Oh God, it's a couple weeks past, so I'm not sure. Describe it to me and I'll tell you if I'm on board.
Okay. So if you stuck around, they showed some things. I'm going back to them all. And at the very end, they showed the crime scene, which was the sacrificial area. And they showed the book with like police lot tape, do not cross. And of course, what happened?
Somebody crossed the police tape. A big hand popped out.
And stole the book. So I'm like, oh, what? You left.
Oh, yeah. But yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I wasn't expecting an end credit. So that was kind of cool. So I was expecting to see Will return. So like Fear Street will return, but I like this premise. I mean, if they own the rights now to Fear Street, they can adapt any of those stories, which would be cool. And R.L. Stine said he thought it was great. He said, they didn't do everything exactly the same, but they captured the spirit, and that's really important to adapt essentially 30-year-old books.
I can dig it. All right, what else you got?
Yeah, so we had a animated series that debuted on Netflix this week. It was Masters of the Universe Revelation, 5 episodes. I didn't realize it was only going to be 5 episodes, which was very surprising to me.
Was it not? Now, let me clarify. You say that it's 5 episodes because we watched it as well. Is it over? Or is there going to be 5 more episodes like next week? Oh, okay.
I don't think it's over. I just don't know when more is coming because I don't know if you saw it, but at the end of it, Kevin Smith had a little one-on-one with Mark Hamill about everything, and it kind of was a reaction. It was like the after show,
Yeah,
but it was
yes,
very
yeah, I
short.
did.
Yeah.
I saw that tag. Oh, so it was just a little thing. Okay, yeah,
I
okay.
believe
But
so, unless
anyway,
there was something more there. Yeah, but you know, I won't give any spoilers because it just came out. I want people to get a chance to read. But I mean, I will give you my overview of the series. This essentially is a sequel to the original animated series. Is not has nothing to do with the 2002 animated series that was on Cartoon Network. That's a different thing. But this is essentially, like I said, it's in a sequel, and it's taking where that established the characters and the lore, whatever. I don't think it's incorporating anything else. Like there were comic book series, there were other things, there were like golden books back in the day, record books. I don't think they're adapting any of those things. But they did bring in a lot of new characters that we previously really didn't see on the animated series. Obviously, we had She-Ra at the time as well that introduced the Horde with Hordak. That was not addressed here. I don't know if She-Ra is a thing with this, even though she was part of that. There was a Netflix She-Ra series as well. So I'm not 100%
right.
sure, but this, like they said, Kevin Smith was the executive producer of it. He wrote some of it. And I know, yes, he is not like the biggest He-Man fan of the world, but I think he understood enough about it.
Not a fan at all in his own regard.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that was when he walked back because he said apparently on Twitter years ago, I've never seen an episode of He-Man. And then when he's doing press for the show, oh my God, I'm so excited! I've always loved He-Man. So it's Kevin Smith. He is a huckster of the highest degree. He is a pitch man. He's a show man. He's a brand upon his own brand. He really is.
Yes, absolutely. And ultimately, Kevin Smith is a good writer. Sometimes when he's doing his own thing, he gets a little self-indulgent and just, lowers into like the lowest common denominator.
You mean like Tusk and with the yoga hosers with the Bratzies?
Yes. Sometimes his insular, like, I just want to entertain myself and do things to entertain myself. Gets a little, because I'm like, well, you know what? Maybe your style of humor, entertaining yourself, is only for like 5 people from Red Bank, New Jersey. Maybe, right. I don't know, but in this case,
only the comic book men. Only the comic book men.
Exactly, but he's written like Daredevil, which is a great run. Which he said himself. I don't know if he was always a big Daredevil fan, but he wrote a great comic and he was involved in that. So he's done things that are properties and given his own spin on them. And I think that's what we got from this. He isn't the expert, but I'm assuming he hired people that were experts, and he had, the holders of the license also keeping him on the right path. But I think what he wanted to do was the voice of reason, and to say, who are you making this for? What's the purpose of this? And is it good or is it a cash grab? So I think he gave that layer of scrutiny on it that sometimes real fans can just like, oh, this wasn't accurate. He kind of tried to work both of those things. So in my case, I would say this has delivered exactly what I needed to deliver in regards to an update to the classic 80s cartoon, because you cannot deliver that today in the same format where it comes off as laughable and dumb. The source material of He-Man was never like a Bible. It was never like the greatest thing in the world. It was something to create toys with kids. Yes, they had some people that were involved to write some of the lore for it in the Bible, as they would say. But I don't want that old show. I can't watch that old show. I don't want to relive that. I want something that's actually at the level of writing today, or at least they care, that's clever, gets some of the things, plays off some of the classic parts. Right. Updates the animation and has good voice acting and good voice directing. If I get those with a comprehensible story, I'm good with it. Because people that are like, it's not the same, they don't get it. I'm like, guys, I loved He-Man. He was my first love. And I cannot go back and watch those cartoons because they're horrible.
I will, if I can amend. And again, I didn't really dig on this. But that's not even what I'm going to talk about. What I'm going to talk about is that I do have to agree with you upon a point, and it's somewhat salient, not only about what I'm going to talk about the Snake Eyes movie, but the fact that there's a new G.I. Joe cartoon in production, is that I tried to go back and watch, because episodes of the 1980s G.I. Joe cartoon series, which only ran for 2 seasons and a bunch of miniseries that were before and after it. There's a YouTube channel that shows them all the time. I picked up a bootleg of the DVDs at Wizard World Chicago a couple of years back. They are difficult to watch, even from a visual standpoint. I like some of the stories, but even from a visual standpoint, very choppy, nasty. And I think you and I were talking earlier today, and you touched upon it, stuff that I don't. You want to have something that for G.I. Joe that maintains the seriousness, or even or really kind of turns it up a little bit, but still maintains the characterization of Duke and Scarlet and Snake Eyes, and which was, as I'll talk about in a moment, the biggest failing of the Snake Eyes movie was no characterization that was consistent or that you even cared about at all.
Yeah, and this movie, or I would say this series does turn it outside a little bit because of the fact that He-Man is not in the title of this. He's not the main character of this. So be prepared if you're not going to be happy with that. That's perfectly fine. But I would say He-Man was never the most charismatic character to begin with. He was just the most powerful man. Doesn't mean he was the most interesting man. Like the what is it, the Corona guy, or no, it was the Dos Equis guy.
Stay thirsty, my friends. Yes, that guy.
Exactly. And I think that's perfectly fine. In this case, though, we got more time with Adam, who really is he is the touchstone. He was supposed to be. In this case, we got someone else, and we got in this. We got more character development in these 5 episodes than we got in any He-Man, like in the 130 episodes. There was no character development in the show. It was essentially watching The Simpsons, and it was like back to square one. We never had impact to the storylines. We had characters die in this, and we had character growth and some touchstones that I thought were great, and some of the inside jokes or I'd say inside pieces that if you watch the show, you totally get what they were talking about. And I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I want to watch more. I know in Rotten Tomatoes, like the critics are like, yeah, this is pretty good. And the fans are like, or the tomato meter for the fans are like, blah, I don't like it, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that's fine. But at least they weren't saying this is a pile of, like the critics weren't saying this is a pile of crap, and the fans were like, I loved it, it was great. And I'm like, I'd rather have a quality piece of entertainment that still feels like Masters of the Universe than, something else. I mean, this was not the Bayformers, right?
Right.
This was like 2 Transformers and 85 people. This was when they showed up in Jersey, and then made that Courtney Cox.
That sounds spectacular. Sign me up. I love it.
I don't know where this is going. I'm assuming we're getting more because we're announced on a cliffhanger. I'm like, okay, cool. Maybe they only have enough time to do 5 episodes now. More is coming, like a split season, which I'm fine with too. But give me more. I'll take it.
Right. Totally. So for myself, we went to the movies twice since once on Thursday and then once on Saturday, yesterday. And we saw Snake Eyes. Now, this has been obviously much ballyhooed. This was billed as a G.I. Joe Origins film, so clearly teeing this up to be the beginning of a new franchise, because we know franchises are the name of the game, and this is through Paramount Pictures, so it's not Disney, it's not Warner Brothers, it's Paramount trying to land their big fish. And let me tell you, this big fish was about this big. This movie was god awful. There was absolutely nothing about it that worked, and that is completely divorcing it from being anything related to G.I. Joe. And Todd, you and I talked about this many, many times watching the trailers, and you said to me, this is not Snake Eyes to me. So, this is not G.I. Joe to me. G.I. Joe to me is very colorful. It's, it's blue lasers and red lasers and big fighter jets and this and crazy plot lines and Serpentor and Dr. Mindbender and Destro and all this different stuff.
It's the village people of the military, right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. So this had it had no charm. It had a very dull script. And then I turned to April. We ended up seeing this in IMAX, which was a huge mistake because we like the recliner chairs, and the recliner chairs in IMAX only go back halfway. So you're struggling to see the whole screen by doing this. I think I got a backache walking out of there. But anyway, she and I are walking out, and I turned to her and I said, okay, to break this down succinctly, let me ask you this question. What cliches did you not see in this movie? Because that was the benchmark. Anything that you can dream of, cool guys walking away from explosions, the bad guy who pops up at the last minute because you think he's dead, this thing or that thing, it was all in there. The only thing I found somewhat interesting about this movie was the portrayal of the Baroness, which even that, the Baroness is supposed to be a European aristocrat. This woman was some kind of a Spanish terrorist, but she just chewed scenery in that role. I liked it, but the portrayal by actors that you would like, Henry Goulding, who I think is a great actor. My biggest beef was that he couldn't settle on an accent he wanted to land. Feels like he started off talking in the movie like he was an American guy or blah blah blah, and then by the end of the movie he was speaking in his native British accent. So that didn't work. So many of the actors are Asian, native Asian, so they spoke with accents that range from light to heavy. So that's a place for me that subtitles come in handy. But I mean, that's kind of neither here nor there. But a really great standout of somebody who was receiving poor direction and was just doing this for paycheck was Samara Weaving, who I think is a great actress. I've enjoyed her in We'd Love That Ready or Not, which was that horror movie. That was awesome. I know she was in your Bill and Ted movie, which wasn't great, but regardless, I think she's got a lot. She was in the Babysitter thing on Netflix that you and I both enjoyed. She was great. I like her, but she was stiff in this movie. She was Scarlet, terrible wig. But she was so stiff. I was having this conversation with a buddy of mine who's another big G.I. Joe guy and a cosplayer. And I said, he said, what are the worst portrayals actor portrayals in this film? And then obviously Henry Goulding was my first one. My second one was her. And he said, I got to agree with you. It was like when the cameras were going to roll, she asked the director, what's my motivation for this scene? And the director turned around and said, I want you to think about how much you don't want to be here. Because that's what her portrayal was like. It was god awful. So, Todd, you and I talked a little bit of this on the B-roll. Different things are going to appeal to different people. But, I know you frequently make the reference of, if I didn't slap G.I. Joe or Snake Eyes on the front of this, would this movie be any good? This movie was not good with any of those things tagged on there. There was very sparing references to anything related to G.I. Joe, very sparing references related to anything to Cobra. This was really not G.I. Joe of any kind.
I was surprised, Jason Statham should have been in this movie because it seemed like a perfect, the Transporter Part 4.
Well, it really was. It was high octane explosions. There was a big snake pit scene that was part of one of the ninja trials, and and even 3/4 of the way through the movie, you still didn't know if Snake Eyes was a good guy or a bad guy because he was doing a bunch of shifty stuff. So you couldn't really have a character that you could get behind. It was dog meat to me. I just absolutely would recommend against it. But a little bit more briefly is that we went to go see the latest M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong movie last night, which was Old, O-L-D, about a family that goes.
Wait! Is this movie about Madam Webb?
Oh, it could be. She was in. I think she was actually in there. She was the old lady who died right away because you get this family. They have 2 kids. They have a daughter who's 11 and a son who's 6. They go to this resort, and then they get dropped off to a special hidden private beach with other couples that come to find out that they're actually part of an experiment because the beach, the metals or the cliff around it makes the people age at a phenomenal rate. Trust me, the sci-fi rules of this are really all over the place. The scripting and dialogue is just as bad as you would come to expect from M. Night Shyamalan's later works, I think was that movie The Visit. Do you remember that one about the kooky grandparents and the 2 kids?
I never saw it, but I remember that was his first movie that came back and kind of got him back to where he is now. Yeah.
It's kind of one of those. It reminds me of George Lucas and a statement that Harrison Ford once made about George Lucas. He says, George, you can write this dialogue, but you certainly can't say it, because just that part didn't add up. Overall, it was a cool concept. I like the execution, but again, the rules of the sci-fi universe of this were really all over the place. But it was quite a thriller. So I would recommend it. I still like his works. Again, Shyamalan Ding Dong it's kind of like the odd even rules of Star Trek. He's going to get a good one, he's going to get a bad one. He might have a couple bad ones in a row, but he'll circle back and there'll still be something interesting. Naturally, he puts himself in all of his films and some kind of heavy references to the state of Pennsylvania. Or to Philadelphia in general, even though this was filmed in the Dominican Republic. So nothing in Pennsylvania was harmed in the production of this film.
It wasn't on the, it was next to Three Rivers Stadium. They just put it on the river.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Oh, the Three Rivers crowd. But anyway, I would, so in quick summary, Snake Eyes, not a chance. Avoid it like the plague. Old, go see it. I thought, if you can get past the dialogue, I thought a lot of it was really pretty great.
One follow-up question on Snake Eyes, or I call it Snack Eye, because
Snack Eye
is a snack. He's a snack.
He, though? My God. Yes.
Really quick though, do they? There's probably an end credit teaser or something for something more coming. Is that kind of? Is there something like this is the setup to something else?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a scene at the end with Storm Shadow, and but I'll tell you, with what it sounds like, the box office is not delivering for this film. I consider it to be dead stick, but I could be wrong. You never know. But
Well,
I
I
mean,
can wait for 45 days to see it on Paramount Plus.
you know what? And you may choose to give it a scratch. That's totally up to
Sure.
you. But yeah, I could not give this a more stern stay away.
I'll give them 2 hours of my time, but no money.
2 hours and 1 minute.
Ooh, that's too much.
That's too much.
Absolutely. Well, that is it for what we've been geeking out about. Good time had by all. Lots of good entertainment for everybody, which is awesome. Now that COVID is hopefully going to get better, we'll have more time out at the movie theaters, which will even be better. But Charlie, you know what? We still love our favorite best vacation destination for all things nerdy, and that's the Thunderdome.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
Thank you, Tina. We're sitting in Thunderdome where the mutants have been gathered for a topic or game to be entertained. And this week, we are talking about a comic, and that is called King in Black. This is from Marvel Comics. This came out December 2nd, 2020, part 1. We all 5 now are out, and that concludes the series. This is on Marvel Unlimited as well, if you want to read it there, which makes it nice and easy to basically read this whole saga, which Charlie, oh Charlie, man, oh man. So the King in Black, just very quickly, this kind of ties into Venom and the fact that apparently the symbiotes are basically a separate species who are part of this planet. This king named Null created them in the dark as kind of one of his sets of minions, because he made dragons and all these other things. But he's kind of like the king of darkness, I guess is the best way to describe him. And so essentially he is trying to now invade the Earth and take it over and to reclaim Venom and the powers of all symbiotes across the universe. And this is the story.
Yes, it is. And I think so, because again, I was familiar with this kind of in passing, the Planet of the Symbiotes or whatever, because that was one of the spin-offs back in the heyday in the 90s because you had, Venom rolled out in the late 80s, you got Carnage in the early 90s, and then the whole symbiote cultural explosion.
Scream and whatever. Yeah, there's exactly. Symbiotes, yeah.
That all, and then and I don't remember the storyline of the Planet of Symbiotes, but it was one of those, it was like a main title crossover, and then there were a couple of like an Alpha and Omega like bookended like giant size issues, whatever it is. I don't remember a damn thing about the plot line, but it's kind of funny thinking about this, because what you just listen to you describe it kind of reminds me of the Null and the symbiotes remind me of like the Borg. Like we're doing one of our last retro recaps for a long time over on Code this week, Star Trek First Contact, which is of course the Borg film for Star Trek: The Next Generation. Kind of in a lot of ways the same thing. They're coming to assimilate Earth, and Data is the linchpin, but Picard was the linchpin, and so this story kind of employs a lot of that. Like Eddie Brock is the linchpin, but his son, which I knew about his son just because I had read one of the other Venom crossovers, but again, his son Dylan is a fairly recent innovation of a character, and they don't really do a lot of background about what all that means. But his son gets in the mix, and I kind of reached my point of maximum
maximum delusion,
maximum disillusion, I should say.
Okay.
With these big crossover stories, because everyone you read, it's like the Earth's going to be destroyed, and the city is destroyed, and it's destroyed around the Earth, and the War of the Realms, plus the Secret Empire, plus I can't even remember the name of the one that I actually liked that came out last year. It was a Fantastic Four Avengers one. What is that one that I really liked? Do you see how fleeting this is?
Yeah, it gets to a point where these used to be more so one, and then you didn't get another one for a long time, and then sometimes they were self-contained to a team, sometimes they were across the world, and yeah, they become more so much more popular, especially as they kind of try to recreate things from the past. So this one felt a little bit different to me, because I was not keeping up with Venom and Spider-Man to a certain extent, but apparently this all came out of the creators Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman, where they've kind of created this mythology that is really driven. They've been driving this the last 3 years. I remember we were at C2E2 and I think we attended the Marvel panel, and they were talking about
Yeah.
the next stage of Venom or whatever. And like, so they've been laying the groundwork, and it was interesting because when I looked at Marvel Unlimited, and they had all of like the prelude, and then they had all the comics.
Right.
I just could not believe how many issues, if you wanted to be a completist, which by all means don't in this case, there was all these things leading up to King in Black.
Right.
Even in like the top
Right.
of the corner it would say, like, this is the one before the thing, this is the thing, here's more things before the thing. And then actually in the series of comics, you had, obviously the core comics, but then you had like crossovers between existing series, but then you actually had standalones that might have
Right.
been
Little
one issue.
one-shots. Right.
Not
shoot.
even one shots.
Yep.
You had some that were 4 issues, which I'm like, I don't even know what this is. And then it's like, there's a Black Panther one, but it's a 1 issue. But I couldn't
Right.
tell if it was like part of Black Panther, like a new series. And I'm like, I just don't understand the appeal of doing that versus just the
There's no doubt about it. I mean, certainly what the appeal is on their side, but yeah, no, I know exactly where you're coming from because it was very similar with, we tried to lean in, and it was April's idea. She was like, I really want to lean into this War of the Realms. And this was what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Mhm.
We're like, we're going to lean into it, and we're going to, do the whole thing. And I was just looking this up because I wanted to just have kind of a cross section of what that looked like. So yeah, Prelude, 6 books. Main event was not just the 5 books that you and I were talking about, but because it's really distilled in there. But yeah, you've got main event is, the Handbook and regular Venom and King in Black Namor and King of Black Iron Man / Dr. Doom, King in Black, Sword 2, Daredevil, Amazing Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, I haven't even been keeping up on because I discontinued my subscription and I'm just planning to read them this way. But yeah, okay, so they just have it broken into 2 events, but the main event one is like 25 books. And it's a great, and books are a minimum of $4 each. So do the math, and I not even doing the math because it's like $4, whatever it is. If I'm really digging it, I'll pay because you pay for entertainment. That's how entertainment continues to be made. It's a point that we really stress in everything that we do, on the SFU and on the group and on all of our podcasts. But if the entertainment value is not there, which again, I struggled through the story because I'm like, it's just, Earth is like, how trash can Earth get before things are just rubble? Because there is, Atlantis is attacking, and the Kree and the Shi'ar. There was the Kree and the Shi'ar one that was the real. Why can I not remember the name of it?
Oh yeah, I remember that one. Yep.
Absolutely driving me crazy, and I really did like it, but I don't remember what the hell it was called anymore. I feel terrible.
Yeah.
No, we had. It's funny because I bookmarked some of these. We had Secret Empire. We had the Secret Wars with the War Zones, and that was split all up. We had Civil War, a number of years back, Secret Invasion, Original Sin, Avengers versus X-Men Axis, and then there was another one before that. So, if you even I'm just looking at Marvel Unlimited while we're talking, but yeah, even if I go to, the events tab on here, yeah, you get, all the different ones out there, Blood and Thunder, Dark Reign, Fall of the Hulks. It's just they're just or all the ones that happened with the X-Men, Todd, within the last couple of years you were trying to keep up with. I know.
Well, yeah. That was called Empire. Charlie was the last one.
Oh, thank you.
2020. Right. So it looks like Marvelous. It's funny because I looked at most years. 1, 2014 they did 3, 2015 they did 1, 2016 they did 1, 2017 they did 3, and then so they've kind of narrowed those down now to 1 a year, which is perfectly fine. But they are trying to get their money's worth it, and that's where I would say, folks, if you are interested in this one, because we actually need to talk about it, Charlie. We actually talked about the thing we're going to talk about, but in this instance, so we'll break this down. This basically is 5 issues long. There are crossovers in existing series, and then there are standalone series or one-shots, and also like multiple part shots that are standalone as well. So if you want and you really like a character and their involvement in this, there's many ways to check that out. But if you want really just a capsulation of the event, and you don't have to really feel like you missed out on anything, issue 1 through 5 was perfectly fine. I didn't feel like I missed something that happened somewhere else that I really didn't know. So I'm like, okay, perfect way to do it. The extra stuff is supplemental, but it doesn't detract and make me spend more money to get something out of the story. Perfect approach to it. So, so like I said, I don't dip my toe into a lot of monthly Marvel books. So a lot of these events are my way to really understand where characters are at. So I appreciate that. In this instance, it was a weird mix of X-Men, Avengers, Spider-Man. It wasn't like one core character or one group at all, but very much, I would say, the terrestrial Marvel characters. There wasn't a lot of space characters in this. So it was kind of contained in the amount of characters actually who were involved, which I kind of liked because I didn't feel like there was 85 teams and 85 members doing something. You kind of stick with it. Venom was the core of this book, which was cool because Eddie Brock and I always thought about this, and one thing I will say is, above all, Venom and Eddie Brock might have one of the coolest story arcs in all of comics. If you think about where he's gone, where he started, as all of these things, and the character of Venom, where he's been. But Eddie Brock, I mean, kind of we thought he was just going to be a villain all along, and then where he's come and where he ends on this book too. It's like, wow. I mean, that's pretty impressive to have that type of work with someone who we would consider a villain.
True, yeah, and so someone who came from humblish origins, and he wasn't a great guy, but then he turns around and saves the known universe for now and kills the bad guy for now. But again, Null kind of strikes me like the Borg Queen, like, oh yeah, he dies off at the end of this, but the Borg Queen dies off at the end of First Contact, but then obviously she's back because the Borg are eternal, and so are these symbiotes eternal now, despite the fact that at the end Venom literally flies off into the sunset and the dragons are following him and stuff. And so it's very fantastical. And you're right, it's strange to see Venom coming from a place where he was introduced in Spider-Man and quickly became, a sensation of his own and Spider-Man's biggest villain. And to now that Spider-Man plays just a very tiny part, certainly. And again, we read just this 5-part story without reading the 25-issue main event as it was billed here. Because it could tell a comprehensive story and we could really figure out what was going on, and thank God for that, because other than that, yikes, there was a whole lot there's a whole lot going on here.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably parts in those side stories and things that kind of built on, because I mean, you had characters show up and kind of it felt kind of like the easy button was pushed in some aspects, but you knew there was some heavy lifting done off the page somewhere else. And a lot of the levers that were pulled, like essentially, and I'm just going to give a couple story beats that I thought were cool. You had, obviously, one of the things that kept on saying, where's Thor at? Where's Thor at? I don't know where Thor was at, but obviously he was doing something. So obviously he must have been held back. And then he shows up and we had a really cool battle sequence with Thor and Null. Very cool. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of ended. And then we had another cool sequence where we're going to get somebody else to show up, and we find it's Silver Surfer. And that's kind of cool.
Totally.
And then we get another one that shows up. It's Marvel Girl, Jean Grey, coming up out of the blue. And
right. Yeah.
So I thought they did some interesting things. I mean, I don't know if you want to call it the Deus Machina or whatever. We basically, what happens, I mean, in the big picture is we've got this instance where Null is kind of the dark, but there's always a balance. So we get the god of light, I guess they would call him. And we didn't know who that was. Well, then we found out it's like a throwback to just this one character that I don't know if anybody truly knows a lot about Captain, what is it, Captain Universe?
I do. I know this one because it visited upon Spider-Man once upon a time.
It did,
and because of the Spider-Verse is the multiverse, there's still that Captain Universe Spider-Man character exists on another Earth. Blah blah blah. But exactly. It's this. It's like the Green Lantern ring. They get chosen to do something noble, and they're fair of heart, and that's what ends up happening, obviously, to Eddie Brock, who lies. He's hooked up to a bunch of machines because he fell off a building, broken in half, blah blah. This imbibes him with this energy, and then he launches into battle to take on Null, and he summons. This was awesome. He summons Silver Surfer's board, and he summons Mjolnir, and he sticks them together as a damn weapon. This was like Stormbreaker. That was totally crazy, and even Thor himself was just was left aghast that Venom was noble enough to wield Mjolnir, which even though that's not a thing in the movies anymore, even though we got a taste of that in Endgame that we saw Cap wield Mjolnir, that's not small potatoes. That's a big deal.
And I think
So
I was going to say, Charlie, I think that tied into like so his character development. He finally became worthy, right? I
right.
mean, and he talked about I'm the king of second chances. He's died multiple times, Eddie Brock, and it all came down to protecting his son and doing this thing. And I was just looking at this Captain Universe, Captain Universe. The first person he took over his first appearance, Micronauts #8.
Wow, I don't even think that's something that Marvel doesn't have a license anymore. And I was
No.
something I was listening to in another comic, like things like GI Joe or Rom Space Knight don't exist in Marvel parlance anymore because they lost the license. So it's funny that you mentioned something like that because it's not even really canon anymore in some ways
No.
because you're not you can't get it anywhere, so it just doesn't exist.
No. So I mean, like to your point, he basically to this force that possesses people, but it's all powerful and everything, but it's fleeting, right? You don't maintain
Right.
it, it's never kept, it's always passed along, and that was a very cool moment. I do want to talk about one moment that I thought was really surprising at the very beginning. I think it was issue #1, where they're like, Nola's breaking through. He's got this army of dragons. They've got this Shi'ar like leftover arsenal that they try to use, and it doesn't take enough of them down. And it was very cool. And they're still waiting. They're like, "Hey, do we have that special, I don't know, force or weapon ready to go?" Not yet, not yet. And then they call in Bob, aka Sentry. Which Sentry, talk about one of the characters that has such a weird, like, he's
Yeah.
hated. A lot of people don't like him. I mean, it was the flim flam that he was invented, and people said, "Oh, he was the original Marvel character." Stan Lee even mentioned it, but it was all flim flam because it was a character created. He's mentally unstable, but he's got this ability to basically be Marvel Superman. He's brought in. He's going to take down Null. Going to take him apart. He takes down a Sentinel, like out of the, or not a Sentinel,
Eternal.
Eternal,
Celestial. Yeah.
takes him down. I'm like, holy crap, this is going to end quickly. And it did not end quickly. So I don't know. I mean, just like, oh God, he took out Sentry in a way that I don't know if Sentry's coming back. I don't know if he's like one of those immortals, like he'll eventually put himself back together. But I'm like, whew. So that was kind of cool.
Right. No, I dug it. And like I said, those parts were all very cool. But again, the Marvel formula of the crossover, that it's epics with the crazy stakes and everything's going to blow up and explode or whatever, and you're going to wreck the earth. And then there's 48 different crossovers. I just, it's tough, but it's nice because again, you and I have both transitioned to the way that we're consuming Marvel comics or comics in general is that we're doing it off of here and then on DC Infinite and then obviously over on Comixology. So yeah, this was such a tonal shift for Venom, but I know the last Venom crossover that I read left me very, very flat, where this was more of a sci-fi bent cosmic deal, which I think is kind of cool with Marvel. So yeah, I thought that this was a kind of a crazy change of pace.
Yeah, and we're left at the end. There is stakes, hopefully. That means that Venom will have a new status quo. And with that, I don't know what they're going to do with it. How does it play out? Because essentially, he is now officially the lethal protector, as he was dubbed back in the 90s when he was trying to be a good guy, But he and Eddie seem to be symbiotic versus in regards to like just they're equals and they support each other. Actually, have a relationship now, which seems to be caring and loving and accepting. And yeah, I will see where that goes. And you know what? I now will only think of Tom Hardy's accent when I read Eddie Brock from now on.
Oh my gosh! Yikes, Mr. So and So, blah blah blah.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Well, that's a wrap, huh? So I don't. Okay. Well, no. Let's. What one out of 10 symbiotes? What would you give this if you were to give this a rating?
I'll give it a 7.5 symbiotes because it was entertaining and it was quick and it didn't feel like any parts dragged.
I will go with a maybe a solid 6, just because I grew a little weary of the format, but I also enjoyed the tonal shift. I thought that was cool to take Venom from a character that was very Spider-Man, all I care about is killing Spider-Man, to being like, now I'm going to save my son and I'm going to save the world and I'm going to take on this new persona. So they found a way to kind of take the character to a different plateau, and I think that should be celebrated. That's good stuff.
If you just ignored those other comics and didn't think they existed, give it a couple of points. That's what I ignored the other things.
That's good. You can do that with comics because you know what? If you don't see it, it's not there.
Marvel Unlimited makes it very cheap to try them and then skip if you want.
Try them, and dump them. Well, that's about the size of it, friends. So if I'm not mistaken, we are up on out of here. Thank you, friends, for joining us. I'm going to tell you, as always, that sharing is caring, and to keep on trucking.
Be the hero, not the villain.
In a truck.
Snack eyes.
Podcast you just listened to is part of the Secret Friends Podcasting Network. Find us over at secretfriendsunite.com for our 4 awesome shows: Co-op Mode, Code 47, The Holocron Chronicles, and Secret Friends Unite. Please rate and subscribe to us on iTunes and also over on our YouTube channel. Find us over on Twitter at SecretFriendsU and find our merch store over at TeePublic.